All right, I think we are ready to go. Awesome. Happy Thursday. It is October 16th. My name is Aaron Mashbitz, and this is the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. I'm excited to be here with you talking about some crazy sports fans, a little bit of WWE, some postseason baseball, some Shohei Ohtani, and maybe if I feel so inclined, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL, mostly so I can talk about Aaron Rodgers and how good the Steelers are doing, and hopefully my Super Bowl predictions come true. But we'll talk about that maybe at the end. We're going to start with some sports fans and things of that nature and what it means to be a sports fan. We're going to relate it to WWE, to baseball, what happened to the Phillies, and all that type of stuff. But again, welcome to the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. My name is Aaron Mashbitz. All things Champions Adjust can be found at champsadjust.com, like the merchandise I'm wearing, hat, zipper, all sorts of performance apparel and training apparel at champsadjust.com. We also have mindset skills classes for athletes and parents and coaches. So you can also check that out at champsadjust.com. But let's jump right in. Let's talk about sports fandom. All right. The only reason sports are obviously so popular is because there's fans of sports. That's why there's sports entertainment, right? Again, WWE is really the only sort of sports entertainment product that is very clear about that, right? It's a money-making business to entertain fans. If there are no fans, the doesn't make any money, and you wouldn't be able to pay someone like Juan Soto $756 million to go out there and play baseball. So sports are entertainment. It is sports entertainment. And fans, to say it lightly, get very, 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 very invested in their team. I mean, their mood is dictated by whether their team wins or loses. And it's really hard in the NFL because if your team loses on a Sunday, you got to wait a whole nother week until your mood can change. And we really feel that here in Dallas, Texas, with the Dallas Cowboys. My mom, huge Cowboys fan. So every single week or every single game the Cowboys play, I want the Cowboys to win simply because I love my mom and she's in a better mood. But at this point in our life, I just had a son almost 4 weeks ago now. And so my mom is a grandma. So no matter what happens, she's always in a great mood. And she's a fantastic grandma. And she's been a fantastic mom. Shout out to my mom. I know you're going to watch this or already watching this right now. But so for sports fans, their mood sometimes can be dictated. And so NFL is the worst. Basketball and baseball and hockey play regularly, so maybe it'll fluctuate less because you're on to the next game. But with that said, when something happens to our quote unquote team, because we feel like we own part of the team because we grew up watching them or we're fans of them, like that stuff is kind of weird and kind of creepy. I love sports, obviously. I'm doing this sports talk show. I played sports my whole life. Sports are like the thing that have actively changed me as a person. I mean, you have my mom and dad, who obviously raised me and taught me values, were the best people that I've ever known. They obviously impacted my life the most. But the next thing that impacted my life the most was sports, playing sports, what it teaches about resilience and camaraderie and relationships and effort and earning things, all that type of stuff. But that's me playing sports. I think I was a little bit like more obsessed about screaming at the TV and stuff when I was a young man. Obviously, I don't do that now. I just watch sports because I love them and I can talk about them on this show. But then you have fans who their whole life is dictated by the sport. And I'm not saying, well, I am saying that's kind of a bad thing. I think we should have more well-rounded lives, but it is what it is, right? Fans are fanatics. That's where the word comes from. But things tend to get overboard and things tend to go in the wrong direction when certain things happen to sports teams. Now, for example, why I'm talking about this, because we saw the play where the Phillies ended their season with the really, really bad error from their pitcher, Owen, right? I believe, let me share what's happening here. And then we'll be able to see it. Okay. So as you can see, here's the error. Maybe you've already seen this. It happened a while ago. The Dodgers already moved on. They're up 2-0 on the Brewers currently. But I want to talk about this because it's important for sort of the context of sports fandom and what happens when something like this happens, right? So we watch this play. You see the ball gets hit right back to him.
Gotta find
Just
it.
throws it away.
Oh my
They
goodness!
lose.
He throws it away, and the Dodgers have won.
They lose.
The Dodgers win. Strike.
One of the worst plays, I've ever seen in baseball history. I played baseball for a really long time. Yeah, it bounces off him, but he has plenty of time to pick it up, casually throw it to first base. The guy is out. We move on to the next inning. But the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs. That means there's a force anywhere. So technically, yes, he could throw it home. If the catcher catches it, the guy's out. All he has to do is a force play. But he kind of just gets flustered and throws the ball away, forgets, doesn't listen to his catcher, is just like can't block out the noise, just gets really discombobulated and makes an egregious error. Of course, obviously, as a baseball player and as someone who played at a high level and watches baseball consistently, yes, of course, we should make that play. Yes, of course, about 95, 98% of the time, we are going to make that play. But things like this happen and they put into stark realization that these dudes that you watch, that the people that you're fans of, that you're obsessed with, that you wear the jersey with their name on the back, they're just regular people. They're just regular people. They're just human beings with families and insecurities and dysregulated nervous systems and all these types of things that we all have as human beings. But we see them on a screen. We see them make millions and millions and millions of dollars. And we assume they're like these emotionless robots who can literally just do everything perfectly because we want them to and because the game is on the line and because we love our team. But this stuff happens. And I think a lot of things can be learned from this, right? This guy, Orion, sorry, I keep saying Owens. It's not right. It's Orion Kirkering. Orion Kirkering is the guy who made the error. Great pitcher, great story, all that type of stuff. I hope he overcomes this and gets better and better and better, and his teammates have his back, and this is a lesson that he can learn from. All these great things that sports teach us, this is the moment right here. Like all young players can learn this. There's a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old out there who's lost the game for their team. Does it define him as a person? Absolutely not, especially as 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. It's just a lesson. What can we do to prepare more? What can we do to use our breath, to slow our heart rate down, to be into the moment, to enjoy what's happening, to learn this lesson, to understand if this happens to a teammate, how do I pick my teammate up? How do I stand with my teammate, not blame them? Like all of these great lessons can be learned from this. We're just seeing it at the highest stage. But how do you react to your son or your teammate or the player on your team when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old and they lose the game for you in this moment? Is this the reason why they lost? No. There's 11 innings of baseball before this. Bryce Harper didn't get a hit. Schwarber didn't get a hit. All of these people on the team didn't get a hit. And so there's a combination of things that lead to them being in the situation where it's bases loaded, 2 outs, the game on the line in the 11th inning. This is just one play and a culmination of a bunch of different things. But this play stands out the most because it's the play that lost the game and sent them home. But what can we teach 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds about this? The lessons learned, how we bounce back, how we see setbacks, how we see obstacles, how we see challenges, how we see a teammate, how we hold them, how we embrace them, how we love them after something bad like this happens, and how we pick each other up. These are the most important lessons that can be learned from this, and I hope Orion is learning these instantly. But with that, my sports fandom conversation is about I guarantee that he got death threats from a bunch of different Phillies fans, like a lot. Maybe in email, maybe in mail at his house, maybe in DMs. He did get death threats. Fuck you. Fuck you. How could you do that to our team? How could you do that to our team? All this type of shit was sent his way. And that's where the sports fandom gets out of control. There should be no reason on the face of this earth that you send another human being a death threat because they lost a game. That's it. There are way more important things in life. Yes, I love sports. Sports are important. For a lot of people, sports pay the bills, whether they talk about them or play them, or it's a way for them to release and relax, right? That's why I watch professional wrestling, and that's why there's professional wrestling fans. And we're going to relate this to that in a second. But even all that said, even if you take it super seriously and you love the fan and you support the team and all these types of things, that does never, ever, 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 ever give you the right to treat someone like subhuman, ever. And that's the lesson that we learn as fans. Orion is learning the lesson as a baseball player, as a human being, as sometimes mistakes happen and things go egregiously wrong. And how do we bounce forward and how do we learn from those things? And what lessons can we take from that? And what preparation can I do before that? And how can I be brilliant at the basics? As a team, we got to work on PFPs. We got to work on staying under control under pressure. We got to put in those pressure moments in spring training. We got to understand what situation I'm walking into when I'm coming out of the bullpen. We got to know what to do with the baseball when it happens. We got to visualize these types of things. We got to see obstacles happening and how I overcome them. And all these types of things are possible to learn from this thing right here. But on the other side of this, of the fan side, there are lessons to be learned here that it's never, ever appropriate to send anyone a death threat about fucking losing a game. That's where we have to internally look like, oh, it might be me. I'm the problem as a fan. And I think that's really, really, really important to understand. I hope everyone's also drinking their coffee. Cheers. I drink Death Wish coffee and Black Rifle, if anyone is interested. Eventually, I'm going to own a coffee brand. Either I'm going to start my own, or I'm going to invest or buy one that I find to be amazing. Anyway, so that's really, really important. And then you see how much of a class act Orion was after this happened. I know this is old news, and the Dodgers have already moved on, but this is like important stuff when talking about sports and sports fandom. And this is like the interesting part of the conversation. We can talk about the ins and outs and all that, and we will, but like sports fans are listening to this, and this is important information for sports fans to understand. If you want to be treated like a real human being with dignity and seen in the divine image of God, that's how we have to view other people as well, even if they play a sport or do something that we think is cool, or think we have some sort of ownership over them because we're part of the team and we like go to the game and we pay their salary. And like, no, none of that is true. We're all just playing a game, doing a thing. Like, imagine if you were on a sales call and you botched the sales call because you said the wrong thing, or you spoke too fast, or you weren't prepared for the call, and someone just sent you a bunch of death threats over and over and over again because you fucked that up. Now, bosses at work shouldn't do that either. We can all learn from this and how to create culture of accountability, a culture of consistency, and a culture of winning based on our best values. And so you look at people like this, like I think this is pretty cool from Dan Clark said, Jazz Chisholm cowardly turned his back to media because he wasn't in the starting lineup. And Orion faced the media head on after one of the biggest blunders and brain farts we've ever seen in 40 years. This is what we can learn from. Pouting in the corner in your dugout like Jazz. We don't want to do that, pouting in the corner. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to pout in the corner because you're not in the starting lineup. The coach is saying, this is what's best for our team. Here's what I need you to do. As a great teammate, your only job is to execute your role to the best of your ability. And Chaz did not do that. Orion took full responsibility. Full responsibility. Full responsibility. You can see it right here in this interview. This dude's on the verge of crying.
It was a faster throw than JT.
Taking full accountability for him as a player, right? He's upfront, he's self-aware, he's honest, and all of that internal fortitude will help him learn from this. And I guarantee he has a great year in 2026. And hopefully when the Phillies come back to the playoffs in 2026 postseason, he's in another big spot and he fucking gets the job done. That's what I hope is going to happen because of how, just like aware and honest and like upfront and accountable he was to this, right? He obviously holding back tears. He knows how much it means to his teammates and the city of Philadelphia. All that stuff matters. All that stuff matters. He just had one of those blunders. He just had it, and it's okay. But how do we learn from it? How do we learn from it at the lower levels in the college and high school, and most importantly, in the youth levels, right? Because one of the most important things we saw from the whole thing was he was consoled by his manager, Rob Thompson, after the throwing error in the 11th inning that ended their season, which means Rob Thompson's team did not make the championship series, is not going to the World Series. They have another quote unquote failure of a season. And all he cared about was consoling his player. That is what it's about. That is true leadership. And hopefully that helps him keep his job because I love Rob Thompson. Love him. But this is what it's about. Think about if this happens to your young kid. Anything. Doesn't have to be sports related. Something happens where it's really hard and they feel like they let everyone down. What do? You simply be there for them. You simply hold them and love them and keep them tight and keep them close and understand that this is a learning lesson and we can grow from this together. This is leadership. This is what sports are actually supposed to teach us, that it's not just about the outcome and the wins and losses and all the money. And yes, results matter in life. They do. If you don't get the job done, you can't do anything. But it's more than that. It's more than that. And I think that's really, really important. Was there anything else that I wanted to say here about that? And so in regards to that, then made me think about WWE. So I'm talking about sports fandom. Let's see. Let me see if those will pop up for me. No. Okay. So I'm talking about sports. talk about sports fandom. We just talk about baseball. And it leads me to this discussion about WWE. This happens a lot in WWE with fans sort of getting out of control. Because in professional sports, your MLBs, your MLBs, your NFLs, you're like they travel private, right? They have their own plane, like they're not in the airport with all the regular people. So they don't run into fans a lot where they can get sort of bombarded and harassed. But WWE wrestlers, for those that don't know, travel in regular airports, just like everyone else. Now, there's some wrestlers who have buses. There's some wrestlers who get to fly private, right? And those are few and far between. The majority of the WWE performers you see every single week on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown just travel through regular airports like all of us do. Now, I'm sure hopefully they get to fly first class or they pay for that or whatever the case may be. But WWE performers and WWE superstars have to cover their own travel. And so what happens a lot is these WWE fans, which are just as obsessed and just as kind of insane, you could say, in the best way, sometimes in the worst way, as all other sports fans, but they end up going to the airport and the hotel and sort of just harassing the wrestlers at airports and hotels in very inconvenient times. I'm getting in late. I'm here late. I got to wake up early. You're in my face. You're asking for an autograph. You're doing this. You're doing that. It's just all about fans having a very stark level of self-awareness and knowing when to ask for a picture and when not to ask for a picture. And it goes both ways, right? Again, like I said, there would be no sports, no WWE, no UFC, no any of the other sports if there wasn't obsessed fans buying tickets and merchandise and flying to the games and doing all these types of things and talking about it on the internet. So fans are the lifeblood. Fans are the lifeblood of all sports and entertainment. I totally understand that. So if we can understand that that's our target audience and we want to be thankful and grateful to those fans that actually watch and care and participate in all these types of things, but then at the same time, the fans have to have the self-awareness and the understanding, especially at WWE people, because it doesn't happen in any other sports because they don't really travel open in public like that, that like I can't give you a picture and an autograph at midnight when I got to wake up in 3 or 4 hours to get dressed to go back to do more media before Monday Night Raw, and like I'm in the airport and I'm trying to get home to see my wife and my kids, and I just don't want to be bombarded by 75 different people. And then the fan is like, well, this is my only chance of ever going to get to meet you. And it's like, probably not, but maybe it is. But what does that matter? I'm just another human being. We're all just human beings, and some people consider these jobs to be cooler than another. I think they're just jobs. And if we can view them like that, like it makes it a little bit different. And so CM Punk, who's someone I'm not really a big fan of, posted this on his Instagram story about this whole conversation. We unfortunately have to do this conversation again. Do not turn up at airports. Do not turn up at hotels. I cannot believe I have to say this. Do not follow people. You've repeatedly been politely told no, respect it. You are not a fan. You are a stalker and will be treated as such. Respect the boundaries. Stop harassing people. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of CM Punk for personal reasons that we won't get into on this specific show. But he is uber famous in the professional wrestling world, and fans are obsessed with him. And he makes a very, very good point right here, saying, you are not a fan anymore. You are a stalker and will be treated as such if you are following people to their hotels and to the restaurants they're at and at the airports, and like really just not understanding boundaries and respecting people's personal space. Because from what I know, I used to be a professional wrestler and I have a lot of friends who are in WWE and AEW. And for the most part, these people are really kind. They're willing to give autographs and spend time because they understand that without fans, there is no WWE. Without fans, there is no shows. We tried to wrestle in front of no crowds in COVID and it fucking sucked. So we understand how awesome the energy of the crowd is. But we also understand that there's a line that hopefully that you shouldn't cross, right? Speaking of like you go to a meet and greet with a female wrestler. Do not touch her. Do not put your arm around her like you know her. Take the picture, stand there, lean, and that's it. Don't touch her. Don't try to touch her. Don't try to be creepy. Like there has to be some level of respect and understanding. So we have a mutual agreement that this is beneficial for the both of us. You're getting to meet me, my hero, whatever the case is, and I'm getting to appreciate you for being a fan of me and supporting my work and understanding that this is a mutually beneficial relationship. When it stops being mutually beneficial, then like what's the point? Like right here, what CM Punk is saying. Then it turns into this whole thing that's just not what it needs to be. You turn from a fan into a stalker. You have to respect boundaries and you have to stop harassing people. And then from the baseball or NFL or NBA side of it, like there's never a good reason, ever a good reason to send a death threat to another human being because they lost, because what you think they did was lost you some sort of game or some bullshit. And so I think both of these things align and they're really important to discuss. And that's how I wanted to kick off this show. It's not really about, sports, but it is something that's important to me. And I wanted to address it right here, right now. So I think that's cool. Let's move on. I just bookmarked a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. So we're just going to be scrolling through X. Let's talk about a little playoff baseball. Let's see. Let's see. Well, okay. So let's stop sharing for a second. Let's go right here. Hello, my friends. How are we? Okay, let's go back to a different screen here. We're live. We're hanging. We're doing the stuff. Let's just check out what we got in playoffs. Okay, so here's what's happening in playoff baseball right now. We know the Tigers won. Tigers beat Cleveland, and then the Tigers lost in the 15th inning in the final game to Seattle. Seattle wins that game, moves on. The Blue Jays basically dominated the Yankees, and now Seattle comes out hot in game one, wins game one, dominates game two. And then you think, okay, what are the Blue Jays going to do? Well, they bounce back. They have a bounce back game, and they win like 13-4 in game three in a must-win situation. And we have game four tonight. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if the Mariners win tonight in game four, I'm pretty sure the series is over. If the Blue Jays tie the series tonight and it goes 2-2, I think the Blue Jays will take the series. Ultimately, I did pick the Blue Jays to win, but man, I'd love to see the Mariners in the World Series. Only team in baseball history to not win a World Series. I'd love to see that happen for them. And then on the other side, right, Dodgers have kind of dominated the whole thing. They dominated the Reds. They dominated the Phillies. Cubs win because the Padres just don't know how to win in the playoffs. They refuse to win in the playoffs. There are certain teams who have great rosters, talented rosters, who just can't figure out a culture of winning, especially in the playoffs. And the Padres are that team. The Dodgers were that team for a while, right? They had good teams, and they couldn't get the monkey off their back. Dave Roberts was really close to getting fired. And then they win the big one. And now they understand how to play in the postseason, right? Shohei Ohtani is playing horrible right now. He's batting like 147 in the playoffs. I think he's going to pitch game four. Tonight's game three. I believe he pitches game four. Tonight being October 16th. That's when I'm doing this live. And so I believe he's going to pitch game four. But he's hitting 147, and the Dodgers still have a 2-0 lead. That's sort of the team they've created around them. Like you look at Aaron Judge, hit like 500 in the postseason. Yankees still get booted in the second round. He played really well. Last postseason, I think he didn't play very well. He hit under 200 in the postseason. The Yankees make it to the World Series. So it's very interesting, sort of the dynamic. This year, Aaron Judge stepped up. The rest of the team freaking sucked ass. This year, Dodgers, just like they've been doing the last couple of years, their whole team is stepping up. And the one guy, Shohei Ohtani, is not really hitting well. He's in sort of the biggest slump of his life. He had on-field BP for like the first time ever. He usually just hits in the cages. He went out of Dodger Stadium. Like obviously he's the best baseball player in the world. He's going to pitch game four, but they're still winning despite his struggles. And the Brewers were the best team in the regular season, and they're down 2-0. So tonight, game three, October 16th, is obviously a must-win situation for them, just like it was for the Blue Jays in last night's game when they won 13-4. And so, yeah, obviously if the Brewers lose tonight and Dodgers go up 3-0, it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to win. And I think if Seattle goes up 3-1 tonight, they're going to win the series. I think if the Blue Jays tie it, they're going to win the series. And so then from there, what are we going to look at? We're looking at, let's look at maybe some previews. Let me show you actually. Let me show you actually Ohtani stats right here. I pulled up a little bit. I just, asked the internet, Bing. In the 2025 postseason, Shohei Ohtani is hitting 147 with 5 hits, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 3 runs scored in 8 games. Bad. That's bad. I mean, that's bad. That's not good. Okay, so now let's look at some previews. Actually, I want to go back to X and read some of these things that happened in the game last couple days. So Blake Snell pitched game 1 for the Dodgers, threw great, right? It said Jeff says over his last 2 playoff starts, Blake Snell has thrown 14 innings, allowed 2 hits, and struck out 19. He made the Phillies 8th in MLB in home runs, and Brewers 3rd. Look positively feckless. When Snell is on, there are a few better. A tremendous performance in game 1. I would have let Blake Snell finish the game. I would have done the reverse of what Dave Roberts did. I would have let Blake Snell finish game 1, complete game, but whatever, right? He didn't know what was going to happen in game 2. And so then in game 2 of the series, Dodgers right-hander Yamamoto threw the first complete game in postseason in 8 years. The last one, Justin Verlander, on the very day in 2017 in game 2 of the ALCS. After a leadoff homer, Yamamoto was near perfect, and the Dodgers now lead the series 2-0 heading into game 3, which is tonight. I would have reversed it. I would have had Blake Snell go the complete game because he was a little bit more dominant than Yamamoto, and I would have had a closer come in for Yamamoto. But, it is what it is. It worked out great for Dave Roberts. They're leading 2-0. And now, potentially, we're going to see the Dodgers go up 3-0, then make it back to the World Series and yada, 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 yada. But before we do that, let's talk about the all-time postseason home run leaderboard. Because George Springer's making quite a run for it, right? You got Manny Ramirez at number 1 with 29 homers. You got Jose Altuve with 27, Kyle Schwarber with 23, George Springer with 22, Bernie Williams 22, and Derek Jeter 20. Altuve definitely has a chance to break that record. I mean, I'm not sure when the Astros are going to make the playoffs again. They were very close to making it this year, but they stumbled late, and the Mariners took over. And so Schwarber, definitely, he's going to be in the playoffs next year. He could definitely hit 5 home runs in the playoffs. Like, it's definitely possible. Springer's still in the playoffs. So you imagine Springer at this point, if they play all 7 games against the Mariners and then they make it to the World Series, he could definitely get past Schwarber, and he could even come close to coming to Altuve, which would be 5 more home runs, which would be an absolutely historic postseason, which would definitely help the Blue Jays win the World Series. So you could see that. But I think at some point, you're going to see it's going to be Altuve, Schwarber, and Springer as maybe 1, 2, and 3. But Manny Ramirez, all time, one of the best right-handed hitters of all time. Maybe like top 3, him and Albert Pujols, maybe, and Miguel Cabrera, top 3. Yeah. Miguel, Pujols, Ramirez. Yeah. And the Orioles are looking at hiring Albert Pujols to be their manager. So that'd be very interesting. But shout out to George Springer, right? Unbelievable. 22 postseason home runs, tied for 4th all time. That's incredible. And then before we talk about some of tonight's games, I think this is important to note. Jared Carabas, great baseball account to follow, says baseball is dead, right? No, it's not. MLB postseason averaging highest viewership since 2010. Major League Baseball is having the most viewed postseason in the United States in 15 years. We love that. We love that. I know me and my son Asher have been watching almost every game. Every night I go live on TikTok. If you're interested in that, I'm live on X, YouTube, and Twitch right now. I do this a couple times a week, usually Monday and Thursday. And then every single night at 7:30 p.m., I go live on TikTok to sell some of my products, mental health products, and usually watch a sports game and talk about that, and talk mental health and all those types of things. So if you're interested in that, go follow me on TikTok. We're selling stuff on there every night at 7:30 p.m. And so Asher and I have been watching the games because of that. While Asher usually is asleep by then when I go on TikTok live. But anyways, we've been watching a lot of postseason baseball. As you can tell, I'm talking about it right here, right now, because it's awesome. Viewership is averaging 4.33 million through the division series, according to MLB and Nelson, a 30% increase over the last year and the best since 2010. We love that. Yes, fire me up. Fantastic. Great job. Now, let's see. Are we going to preview some other stuff? Let's see. Okay. Brewers Dodgers game 3. Brewers Dodgers game 3. Obviously, at this point, must win. Must win. It's not even not a question about it, right? It's a must win situation. It's a must win situation here. Obviously their manager said doesn't think it's over. If he did think it was over, that'd be super weird for him to say. Of course, he doesn't think it's over, right? You have the Brewers, who are the best team and the most successful team in the regular season. of course, they should believe that they can take down the Dodgers. And if they don't win tonight in Game 3, it's completely over. Doesn't matter if they win 2 more games and it goes to Game 6. It's like there's a very hard chance to win 4 games in a row against the best team with the most talented roster in the Dodgers. So this is all or nothing here for the Brewers tonight in Game 3, and they're going against a pretty good pitcher as of right now. Brewers are to be determined. So we'll see who they start. But the Dodgers are throwing Tyler Glasnow. And when he's on, Tyler Glasnow is one of the best pitchers in baseball. But only 4-3, 3.19 ERA. But if he's on and gets the job done, I mean, the starting pitching of the Dodgers, the first 2 games has been unbelievable. We just talked about Blake Snell and Yamamoto, basically just throwing absolute fucking gems. Blake Snell could have went the complete game. Yamamoto did go the complete game. I don't see that happening with Glasnow. I think if he gives them 5 clean innings, the Dodgers have a real good shot of winning this baseball game. But the Brewers, all hands on deck, have to be playing their absolute best baseball tonight, Game 3, if they want this series to continue at all. And then you move on to the other game, which is Game 4. You have Blue Jays, Mariners, Game 4 tonight. A lot of bats. Bats have been alive. Game 1 was like not as offensively productive, but Game 2 for the Mariners was very hot, and Game 3 for the Blue Jays was very hot. This team has proven over and over again that fighting back, bouncing back, and having resiliency is part of our DNA. That's what Seattle manager Dan Wilson said. 13-4 loss. The thing with baseball is it doesn't really matter what the score of the game is. It's just a loss, and no matter what, you're playing the next day, unless you're out of the playoffs and not playing anymore. But usually when you have an offensive sort of explosion in baseball, the next day is a little more timid. But we saw the Blue Jays have 2 back-to-back games against the Yankees where they exploded on offense, and they have the offense to do it. But it's also really cool in the Mariners aspect to see the best player on their team, Cal Raleigh, Big Dumper, actually play really great in the playoffs. He did homer in Game 3. So did Julio Rodriguez, homered in Game 3. Like, some of their big dogs are playing really well. Vlad Guerrero was like 0 for 7, I believe, in the first 2 games. Then he comes off unglued in Game 3. Your big boys really do drive the offense, and both big dogs have been driving the offense. And you love to see someone like Cal Raleigh, Big Dumper, who hit 60 home runs in the regular season, continue that dominance in the postseason. And they're going to need him and Polanco and Rosarina and all of these guys to get it done if they want to win today and move on to the World Series. And let's see who our starting pitchers are going to be. So I keep scrolling too fast. Who's the starting pitches? Blue Jays right-hander Max Scherzer is making his first postseason start with Toronto. The 41-year-old knows how to work. He has 2 World Series rings and a Hall of Fame resume, and the Blue Jays need at least one more moment of greatness from him. Will Scherzer come out to play? We know how dominant Max Scherzer can be. Again, 2 World Series rings, Hall of Famer, one of the best pitchers we've seen in the last 15 years. Does he have something in the tank? If he, again, kind of like Glasnow, Scherzer can get them 5 or 6 clean innings against the Mariners lineup, who's playing really good baseball, then the Blue Jays have a good chance of winning this game. And the Mariners really need Luis Castillo. He'll make his first start since Seattle's ALDS Game 2 win of Detroit way back on October 5th. He needs to go. Like, he needs to slow down the offense. The Mariners win this game, they're going to win the World Series. The Mariners win Game 4, they're going to win the series. Blue Jays win Game 4, they're going to win the series. We'll see what happens. It really always, especially in playoff baseball, it generally comes down to who's going to pitch. Who's going to pitch good? Who's going to pitch good? That's the saying, right? Who's going to pitch good? Who's going to pitch good? But in playoff baseball, it generally comes down to who's going to pitch the best, who can get the most outs, and which sort of key and non-key players can get the job done in clutch situations. Can the big dogs come out and really make a difference, or can random sort of players that you hadn't heard of a lot all year come to get it done? I've talked about this a lot, but like Tommy Edman last year for the Dodgers. No one expected that. You expect the big dogs to get it done. Well, right now, the big dogs for the Dodgers aren't getting it done. Ohtani's hitting 147. So who are the other key pieces that are going to come together, come clutch, and make that happen? But it really all starts with starting pitching, as you can see with the Dodgers. That's why they're up 2-0. So will Scherzer be able to do something? Will Castillo be able to keep his team in the game? right? Well, Glass now, whoever starts for the Brewers, like starting pitching is there, defense is there, and then you're hitting. It's kind of a little bit more sporadic. You can be a little bit more consistent with your pitching because you know what you're going to get. But it all comes down to pitching and defense and timely hitting. That's how you win baseball games. And you have to be brilliant at the basics. When we go back to Orion, right? You got to be brilliant at the basics. You got to be able to make the routine plays over and over and over and over again. And then sometimes the extraordinary happens. But the baseball team that wins most often is the team that is most fundamentally sound and most brilliant at the basics. And that can be relayed to our life as human beings, right? As human beings, we have to be brilliant at the basics. What does that mean? That means eating well, moving well, sleeping well, and thinking well. Those are the basics. And how can we be brilliant at those? And then everything else is sort of additive. If we want to show up as the best version of ourselves in greatest service to the world, we have to eat well. We have to move well. We have to think well. And we have to sleep well. And if you want to start thinking well, then you can go to champsadjust.com and find one of our mental skills and mindset programs. We have sports parents programs. We have mental skills, mental toughness, confidence, full online courses, all available at champsadjust.com for athletes, parents, and coaches. And we have sweet performance apparel that you should really need. And we're also at this point looking for affiliates and sponsored athletes. We just sponsored someone's race in Chicago, the marathon. We'd love to sponsor you and put some Champions Adjust merch on you. Or if you want to be an affiliate or a partner, whatever the case may be, we'd love that. And last thing, just quickly about the NFL, don't really care that much about it, but I do care about Aaron Rodgers because he's my favorite athlete. I just think he's a cool guy. And at some point, I'm going to have him on my podcast and we're going to chop it up about life and ayahuasca and going through the journey and going inward and journaling and all these types of things. But his Steelers are playing really well right now. And they play the Bengals. I think, and if they beat the Bengals, they go 5-1, and I think they're almost a lock at this point. No, they're not a lock. It's too early in the season, but he is playing really well. At the beginning of the season, I said my Super Bowl pick was the Steelers versus the Niners. The Niners are banged up. Brock Purdy's banged up. Maybe they can get through this stretch where they're injured and then come through, and then be better when Bosa and Warner come back and Purdy comes back. But I really would love to see Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl. I really would love to see Brock Purdy back in the Super Bowl. I want to see those two teams play in the Super Bowl, and I want to see Aaron Rodgers win the Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset. And the only public appearance he makes after that is coming on my podcast, which is called Something for Everybody. This is my sports talk show, Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. I also have a podcast. Just talk a lot. I'm always talking. So yes, you should definitely follow me and listen to me talk nonstop all the time about everything: sports, professional wrestling, mental health, personal development, all types of things. But I'm still going with that Super Bowl pick. I'm still going with the Steelers versus the 49ers in the Super Bowl, even though the Buccaneers are playing amazing and Baker Mayfield's also one of my favorite athletes, and the Chiefs are playing amazing and the Seahawks are playing pretty well right now and the Lions are good and all these types of things. I'm going for the coolness of the Steelers versus the 49ers. And if it doesn't happen, I'm wrong. I'm pretty much always wrong on all my predictions. My World Series prediction was the Yankees versus the Phillies. That was totally wrong. Now I'm saying Blue Jays and Dodgers. That could be totally wrong. It could be the Mariners and the Brewers. Who knows? Just flying by the seat of my pants here at Champions Adjust. But I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much. Wherever you're watching, if you're on X, drop a follow, go to champsadjust.com. If you're on Twitch, appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, drop a sub, like the video, comment down below. I appreciate you very much. And I will see you guys next time on the next edition of the Champions Adjust Sports Talk Show. I'm Aaron Mashbitz, and I hope you take very, very good care of yourself and others. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.